Shalom. I want to thank you guys for joining us study today. This is Jadiel from the 14 Angels Learning Center. Today we're going to be discussing part 2 of breaking down John chapter 14. And this study is going to be, we're going to take it a little bit slow because we have to cover a few Greek words in order to get a clear view of what was being said in John chapter 14. So thank you for joining us. Please subscribe to the YouTube page. Please share this video. And if you would like to support us, you can go to 4alc.com. So thank you guys. With that being said, let's start our study. So we're looking at the John chapter 14. We're going to look at verse 15 down to verse 25. 15 to verse 25. Let's look at 15 and 16 to basically establish what we're going to be talking about today. It says here in John chapter 14, verse 15 and 16, "If you love me, keep my commandments. And I will pray the Father, and he shall give you another comforter, and he may abide with you forever." That he may abide with you forever. So I will pray to the Father, he shall give you another comforter, that he may abide with you forever. Now, one of the things that's usually emphasized is not the context of the whole chapter, nor the context of what Yahushua is talking about in the following verses. But usually this is cherry-picked, and there's this emphasis on the word another comforter, and he may abide with you forever. Now, there was many instances in Scripture, such as I believe it's in Mark chapter 9, where there's this emphasis on the word he. Now, in Mark chapter 9, there's this instance in which Messiah is talking about his death. And he doesn't say that I will die, but he says he. In Mark chapter 9, verse 12, it says, "And he answered and told them that Elijah verily must come first and restore all things. And how is it written of the Son of Man, that he must suffer many things, and that he be set to naught." That he must be set to naught. Now, there's multiple instances in which he talks about his sufferings, and he refers to it as he. And let me see if I can point any more out. Let's see. All right. So in Matthew chapter 20, verse 19, it says, "And shall deliver him to the nations to mock and to scourge and to crucify him, and the third day he shall rise again." This comes from the context of him going to Jerusalem. Let's look at the context. So Matthew chapter 20, verse 17 and 19, it says, "And Yahushua going up to Jerusalem took the 12 disciples separate in the way, and said to them, Behold, we go up to Jerusalem, and the Son of Man shall be betrayed unto the chief priests and to the scribes, and they shall condemn him to death, and shall deliver him to the nations, and mock and to scourge and to crucify him, and the third day he shall rise again." So we clearly see that when he was emphasizing or referring to himself, many times he would say he, him, Son of Man, him. So the idea that it says here, he may abide with you forever, is not excluding the Messiah, because the Messiah made it quite clear. He says, "Lo, I will be with you always to the end of the world." Or he says, "If you abide in me, I will abide in you," in John chapter 15. So clearly, abiding with you forever is not excluding the Messiah. Okay. So now it says here, another comforter. That word another in the Greek is the word allos. Now I do want to point out another Greek word that's usually used that everybody would be familiar with. This word is heteros. Now heteros, we use it in the term heterosexual or heterosex. It is a term showing that one sex or one gender is attracted to a totally different gender. Let me say that again. One gender is attracted to a totally different gender. Now we have different words such as homo, which means same. Homologos, which means same word. We also have heteros, which means different, like a completely different thing. Here in John 14, verse 16, the word another is the Greek word allos. Now, allos means a different type of the same thing. And here's what I want to point out, the way that the words is used in certain scriptures that we have in the New Testament. So looking at Matthew chapter 8, verse 9, it would prove my idea of the word another or allos in the New Testament. And then we're going to look in the Old Testament to see that the same idea still exists of having a different type of the same thing being referred to, or a different type of the same thing. Matthew chapter 8, verse 9 says, I am a man under authority. This is talking about the Roman centurion that wanted his servant to be healed by the Messiah. He says, I am a man under authority, having soldiers under me. I say to this man, referring to a soldier, go, and he goes. And to another, talking about another soldier. According to the context, this is what he's talking about. I have soldiers under me. I say to one soldier, go, and he goes. And to another of the same thing, soldiers, come, and he comes. And to my servant, do this, and he does it. So he's talking about another of the same thing. I have soldiers under me. I tell one soldier do something, I tell another of the same thing, another type of soldier. Well, let's look at it a little bit more. Matthew chapter 13, verse 31, when he talks about his parables. Now, when he talks about his parables, all of those parables are talking about the kingdom of heaven. So every parable is the same emphasis. The same emphasis is the kingdom of heaven. So when he says another parable, that word is allos. Another parable put he forth unto them, saying, the kingdom of heaven is like unto a grain of mustard seed, which a man took and sowed in the field. So the word another is a different type of the same thing. So he's going to tell you a different type of the same thing. A parable talking about the same topic, the kingdom of heaven. But I think that this Hebrew word, or this Hebrew text, will get us actually more familiar. Now, when you look at the 1 Samuel chapter 10, we're going to look at 1 Samuel chapter 10, verse 6 to 9. This is pertaining to Saul's conversion, King Saul's conversion. Now, the idea of allos is that it's a different type of the same thing. We talked about the soldiers. It's a different man, but it's a different type of soldier, a different man soldier. So it's a soldier. This is a soldier as well, but it's two different men, but it's still soldiers. So here, we're going to be looking at the word another. Now, in the Greek Septuagint, which is a little bit older than the Masoretic text, is translating the Old Testament in Greek. And we're going to see that the word another still comes from the same word allos, and it is promoting the same idea that we see in the New Testament. So let's look at this. 1 Samuel chapter 10, verse 6 to 9. It says, and the Spirit of Yah will come upon you, and you shall prophesy with them, and shall be turned into another man. That word in the Greek Septuagint is allos. Verse 7 says, and let it be, when these signs are coming to you, that you do as occasion serve you, for Elohim is with you. And you shall go before me to Gilgal, and behold, I will come down to you to offer burnt offerings, and to sacrifice sacrifices of peace offerings. 7 days shall you tarry, till I come to you and show you what you will do. And it was so, that when he had turned his back to go from Samuel, Elohim gave him another, that word is allos, heart, and all those signs came to pass that day. Now, when it says in verse 6 of 1 Samuel chapter 10, when he says he will be turned into another man, did it mean a different man or a different type of the same man? Absolutely. A different type of the same man. He didn't metamorph into like a different being, human being. He was transformed to a different type of the same being. an unrighteous man to a righteous man, a fleshly man to a spiritual man. You understand? So a different type of the same man when it says that he will be turned into another man. You will be given another heart. Nobody's taking out your mind. Your brain is not being swapped by Yah, but he is giving you a different type of mind. We can learn about that more in Romans chapter 8, from a carnal mind to a spiritual mind. This is only done by the Spirit of Yah, which is mentioned in 1 Samuel chapter 10, verse 6. Now, going back to John, it says, I will pray to the Father, he shall give you another comforter, or allos, another type of the same comforter. Why is the same comforter? Because the word comforter in the Greek is parakletos. And we see that the word parakletos is used for the term advocate in Scripture as well. And let me see if I could find that. It should be in 1 John. 1 John chapter 2, verse 1, it says, My little children, these things write I unto you, that you do not sin. And if any man sin, we have an advocate. That word is parakletos. It was also translated as comforter. We have a comforter with the Father, Yahushua Messiah, the righteous. So that word advocate is comforter. So here it says he's going to send you a different type of the same comforter, that he may abide with you forever. Now we're going to go into a little bit more context in John 14 to see who or what is that comforter, that different type of the same comforter that he was referring to. We already saw 1 John says that comforter or advocate is the Messiah. So let's see if this idea is perpetuated in John 14. So we read to 16. Let's now go into John chapter 14, verse 17. He says, even the Spirit of truth, whom the world cannot receive because it does not see him, neither knows him, but you know him because he dwells with you and shall be in you. So it says here that he's referring to the Comforter as the Spirit of truth, the Spirit of truth. Now earlier in John, we know that earlier in the book of John, he called himself the way, the truth, and the life. And now he's saying that the Spirit of truth is going to come upon them. But the world cannot receive him because it does not see him or know him, but you know him because he dwells in you and shall be in you. This is John 14, verse 17. Now, where else have John made these statements about the world not being able to receive him or knowing him? Who does that refer to that John mentioned earlier in his book? Whatever John is mentioning earlier, the constant consistency of John is that it's referring to the Messiah. So let's look at this a little bit more. John 14, verse 17, let me read it again. Even the Spirit of truth, whom the world cannot receive because it sees him not, neither knows him, but you know him because he dwells in you, because he dwells with you and will be in you. Well, John chapter 1, he begins his book with these same words pertaining to the Messiah. John chapter 1, verse 10 and 11 says, He was in the world, and the world was made by him, and the world did not know him. He came to his own, and his own did not receive him. Let's go back to John 14, verse 17. Even the Spirit of truth, whom the world cannot receive because it neither sees him nor knows him, but you know him because he dwells with you and shall be in you. Very important to connect. The world cannot see him. The world cannot receive him because it does not know him. This is what it mentioned about the Word in being made flesh in John chapter 1, verse 10. Now in verse 12, it talked about those who received him gave he power to become sons. So it's definitely talking about the Messiah in John chapter 1. Here, it gives us the same reference of John chapter 1 pertaining to the Spirit, but listen to what it says. It says that they knew him. They knew the Spirit already because the Spirit dwelt with them and will be in them. They knew the Spirit already. Verse 18 and 19 of John chapter 14 says, right after he says, but you know him because he dwells in you, dwells with you and shall be in you. In verse 18 it says, I will not leave you comfortless. I will come to you. Yet a little while the world does not see me no more. But you see me. Because I live, you shall also live. Now, how are they going to see him? And how are they going to know that he lives? And how are they going to live because he lives? Galatians chapter 2 verse 20, a verse that many know, like it's usually in songs and things like that. Galatians chapter 2 verse 20 says, I am crucified with Messiah. Nevertheless, I live. Yet not I, but the Messiah lives in me. That the life that I now live in the flesh, I live by the faith of the Son of Elohim, who loved me and gave himself for me. Not I that live, but the Messiah that lives in me. Very important. So when he's telling his disciples in John 14, verse 18 and 19, I will not leave you comfortless, I will come to you. A little while the world don't see me no more, but you will see me because I live, and you shall live also. Let's continue. John chapter 14, we're going to read from verse 20 to 23, and then we're going to break that down. It says, at that day, he's referring to the day that you shall live, because you shall see him. Because you will know that he lives. It says, at that day you shall know that I am in my Father, and that you are in me, and I am in you. We talked about this in the last video, and we know that the phrase I in you and you in me is only a reference of the Spirit being in you. When the Spirit is in you, he is in you and you are in him. When we are in the Messiah, he is in us and we are in him. So when he says, in that day you shall know that I am in my Father, and you are in me, and I am in you, because you will receive my Spirit, the Spirit of truth. Let's continue. Verse 21 to 23. He that hath my commandments and keeps them, he it is that loves me, and he that loves me shall be loved by my Father, and I will love him and will manifest myself to him. Judas said to him, not Iscariot, Master, how is it that you will manifest yourself to us and not to the world? This is very clear because we're looking at statements saying that the world won't see him, but they will. The world won't know him, but they will. He is saying he will manifest himself to them in a different type of way. A different type of the same being. Messiah will manifest himself in a different type of way. He's in flesh now, and he's going to manifest himself in a different way in which he will be able to be in them. Verse 22, Judas understood this. So he's asking, how will you manifest yourself to us and not to the world? Verse 23 of John 14 says, Yahushua answered and said to him, if a man loves me, he will keep my words, and my Father will love him, and we will come unto him and make our home with him, or make our temple with him. He will be our temple. This is very important for us to grasp, because this is the dwelling, we are the dwelling place of the Spirit. And he is letting us know that the Spirit of truth is he himself. He himself is desiring to dwell with us. Not only he, but he and his Father will make their abode in us, as mentioned in John 14, verse 23. Let's see if this idea is perpetuated in John chapter 17, verse 21, and what that actually means. The Father, we will make our abode in you. That means you will be in him and they will be in you. John chapter 17, verse 21 says, that they may all be one. As you, Father, are in me and I in you, that they also may be one in us, that the world may believe that you have sent me. so that we may be one in the Father and the Son. What does it mean? Again, what have we covered about the meaning of us being in them and they being in us? That means that the Spirit of the Father and the Son is in us. The Spirit is not a third separate being. It is the Messiah and the Father themselves in us. It is not a third being. It is they themselves in us. This is what the Scriptures is revealing to us. Now, the interesting thing is that if they are one being, why does it have to emphasize on both of them being in us? The Father and the Son. Now, there's many breakdowns of what this means, but I'm going to save the breakdown of what does it mean by the Messiah and the Father being in us, and how is the Son in us by the Spirit, and what that means. This is going to be broken down in part 3. So what I wanted to emphasize on in this part was the comforter aspect, that the comforter is translated as comforter, and in 1 John chapter 2 is translated as advocate. They're both the Greek word parakletos. So advocate and comforter is the same word in the Greek. So in John 14, he's saying that the comforter, another comforter, or a different type of the same comforter. Another is a different type of the same thing. So a different type of the same comforter will come, and he will abide with you forever. And then he says, I will not leave you comfortless. I will come to you. So he, right after that verse, he says, I will not leave you comfortless. I will come to you. And then it goes into the Spirit of truth. The Spirit of truth is then broken down and saying that the world cannot receive the Spirit of truth because the world does not see him or know him. And then it says in John chapter 1, in the very beginning of the book, that when the Word was made flesh, that the world did not know him, and he went to his own, and his own did not receive him. Then as we go on, it says, a little while the world does not see me anymore, but you will see me because I live, and you shall live also. And we read how that means that when he was resurrected and he went to his Father, he was able to now be omnipresent, and that his Spirit was able to come in us, and we would then feel the power of his life in us. This is going to be broken down even more in part 3 when we break down the rest of these verses. Please stay tuned. I want to thank you guys for joining us. Please stay tuned. Share these videos, specifically one by one, because we're going through a certain type of sequence, and hopefully that you'll you'll wait for the next video and study the following verses to see if you could come up with the direction that we may be going. So I hope that this was a blessing to you. Please share this video, subscribe to our YouTube page, support our ministry, 4alc.com. Please, when you support our work, it allows us more time to focus on these videos, focus on our online ministries, focus on many other things that we're attempting to do. But we definitely do need support in order for us to take that time away from maybe working a regular 9 to 5 and focusing on the work. So please support your brothers here at 4alc.com. And please support us also with your prayers and your questions and your support as your responses. All of those things are definitely needed to promote the truth. So shalom. We thank you for joining us. We hope that Yah blesses you, brothers and sisters. Shalom.